What's up, everybody? It's Joe with J Blake Photo. I am still here on vacation on the island of Maui, and as it always seems to be whenever I'm on vacation, there's a bunch of news, and today is no different. So overnight, a Portuguese vlogger actually posted some information about what he claims is the DJI Mavic 3 and what he thinks that's going to look like. I've taken a look at the information. I reviewed some of the history of what we've been seeing out of DJI recently in terms of patents and other leaks, and honestly, it looks legit to me. Now, first of all, the images that he posted, well, they look a little funny, and at first glance you might look at them and say, well, that doesn't look legit. But having looked a little closer, you can tell that even though in his explanation he claims that these are drawings because he wasn't able to actually represent the drone that he handled, you can tell that these are photographs that have been manipulated in a photo application to look like some sort of artistic rendering, but they are obviously actual photographs. So I will link to his video. I will link to some of the Twitter conversation that I've seen about this leak, with credit to Drone Modelissimo, which is the Portuguese gentleman who posted this originally. Now, there are a couple things in these photos that kind of stand out, but aren't totally crazy. The fact that it has a finned back, it doesn't look like it has a battery on the top, like we've had in all the other Mavics, but as a previous rumor had indicated, it might actually be getting that battery from the rear, similar to the Mini. And those fins look very similar to the Mini and the Air 2S as well. They also look a lot like a mock-up that we saw of a part that came out on Twitter a few months ago. So again, more and more of this information seems to corroborate this person's explanation of what this drone looks to be. But the obvious feature, the most kind of jarring portion of these images, is the fact that it looks like it has a dual front camera. Now, there have been a lot of different proposals for what this could be, but the leaker indicates that this is a true dual camera setup and that the obstacle avoidance system has been significantly updated. That instead of having both rear and side facing cameras for obstacle avoidance as we do on the Mavic 2, that instead there will be one set on the corners in sort of a diagonal fashion that are just much wider cameras, which that makes perfect sense. So if that was the case, then they wouldn't need as many cameras on the drone for obstacle avoidance. But in these photos, you can see that there are definitely forward-facing obstacle avoidance cameras, so I don't think that's what we're looking at. And the gentleman who did the video indicates that this is not only a 1-inch sensor, similar to what we have on the Mavic Pro now, with a 24mm 2.8 aperture lens similar to the Mavic Pro 2, but that it will also have a stacked sensor on top of it that will operate in a 7x zoom function similar to the Mavic 2 Zoom. So effectively you have the Mavic 2 Zoom and the Mavic 2 Pro in the same device with two different sensors, as opposed to creating a zoom function for the 1-inch sensor, which I'm sure would be either a combination of being very difficult, large, cumbersome, but also probably not cost effective and would eat into some of their X5 and X7 sales on the Inspire drone series. He also indicates that this sensor will actually be a 5.7K sensor, capable of shooting 5.7 and 4K footage. Now, with the battery being moved to the rear, it looks like we're going to be picking up a different design of battery, and with it, more flight time, as they're indicating that this drone will be able to fly for 40 minutes, which is almost 10 minutes more than what you can fly with the current Mavic Pro 2. And I'm assuming that that is still at the 45-ish miles per hour range. What we don't know is if each individual camera will actually have its own set of capabilities and restrictions. We do know that it will shoot 5.7K. We don't know if that will be 30 or 60 frames per second. We assume 60, and maybe there'll be 4K at 120. But we don't know then if that will also be available in the zoom module. And we don't know the resolution of the zoom module. But I would assume that it would be very similar to what we've seen in the Mavic 2 Zoom, with a smaller, maybe 1/2 inch sensor. Now you can see really clearly on the image that it indicates that this is 7 times optical zoom, or maybe it's a hybrid zoom, as the Mavic 2 zoom was only a 2 times zoom range from 24 to 50 millimeters. So I'm not really sure. I mean, is this thing going to have 100+ millimeter zoom distance? Is it going to be that big? Or maybe they're utilizing a larger megapixel sensor, maybe 48 megapixels, in order to do digital zoom in addition to optical zoom. One thing though that I'm very excited about is the indication that we're going to be getting ProRes from at least one of these sensors, ProRes 444, which means that we're going to get that awesome 10-bit depth that we've been getting out of the Hasselblad 20 megapixel sensor, now at 444 chroma sampling, with the much higher bit rates that you can get with ProRes. ProRes is going to make this much easier to edit than the previous HEVC, the H.265 codec, but it will eat up a considerable amount of memory and will need super fast write cards. But it seems that the drone itself will actually come with built-in 1 terabyte of storage. That seems pretty fantastical, considering the fact that costs in storage have not gone down over the last 3 years. In fact, due to the chip shortages, it's actually gone up. So I'm not really sure how that's going to work, or really what that's going to drive the cost of this thing to be. But to be honest, if it is actually going to incorporate both the Mavic 2 Zoom and Pro models into one, with both cameras, one with a 7 times kind of hybrid zoom function and the other with the larger 1-inch Hasselblad sensor that can shoot ProRes 444 and has built-in 1 terabyte with a rumored 2 terabyte version available, as well as being able to fly for 40 minutes. I can't imagine this thing not costing $2,000 to $2,500, maybe $3,000 with a smart controller. That's a lot to pack into one drone. Or maybe they've just figured out how to do it at a much lower cost, and they're gonna just make it work and come out at that $1,500 to $2,000 price range. Putting this alongside the Mavic Air 2S, honestly, that really makes an amazing lineup of drones, combined with the Mini 2 and now the Mini SE. You really have something at every end of the spectrum. And as you continue to kind of go back through some of the rumors and leaks that we've seen, there have been enterprise versions of the Mavic that had dual cameras, actually for thermal imaging, and it has been 3 years since we had the Mavic 2 Pro. I've been flying the Mavic 2 Pro here in Maui. It's given me a bunch of trouble. I am in an authorization zone where I am here, so I did have to go on to the DJI website and apply for a Class E authorization to release my drone and allow it to fly, which worked, but the smart controller is super buggy with this, so I keep having to log out and back into my DJI account. And then even then, once I launch the drone, I think there's something wrong with my gimbal or my camera unit itself, because it is refusing to focus. So the only way that I've been able to get any kind of decent shots while I've been here is to stop the sensor down to f11 to be able to get a much wider focus range, which has been a bummer, because that just adds another variable that I have to mess with. But anyway, just another bit of news coming out while I'm on vacation. I'm still planning my Monday and Friday videos. I've got my one spot challenge, where I'm finding one spot and trying to shoot there and get as many different shots as I can. Those videos will be coming out over the next couple of weeks. And just yesterday, I put out a video on the new GoPro Hero 10 Black. I'll put links to those up here and down in the bottom. And if that's the kind of thing that you're into, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and hit like if you enjoyed the information that I presented here. Go check out Drone Modelissimo. And if you speak Portuguese, it's a great video. So go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and hit the like button on this video if this is the kind of thing that you're into. Oh, and find me on Instagram. I'm over at jblake.photo. I don't know. What is Instagram about anymore? Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.